Howdy folks, it's Bob here today, and this is going to be the third part in the Will It Start 1969 Roadrunner. And today we've got Scott and Jesse, and I'm going to start off today by showing you the results last week that we put the rusty spark plugs in the vinegar, and a bucket of vinegar as you see there, and I pull them out. And unfortunately today somehow my audio got cut off, so I'm going to overlay this and just walk through it. And as you can see here, I start pulling out the spark plugs and I'm cleaning them off, and they were in about 7 days, maybe it was 6 days, and the rust just kind of fell off of them. I could even just rub the rust off with my gloves. So if anybody was needing, clean bolts or small parts, or inside of engines to get them unstuck, best way to do it is to use the vinegar, as you can see here. And I did use just a little brush just to make it go a little quicker, because it did remove the black soot off of the carbon off the inside of the spark plug as well. I mean, they look almost brand new after 20 years sitting outside. So I cleaned those up. Then we started messing around with the fuel system a little bit. As you see here, we started undoing the hoses, and we were taking a look at the fuel pump. We couldn't get the fuel pump to turn on. It had a secondary switch, so it was on its own circuit, and there was we had power going to it, but it wouldn't cut on. So we ended up having to go to plan B, and then to plan C. Plan B was to maybe try and hook up an auxiliary fuel source, and then plan C just ended up being pour, like most people do, just fill up the float bowls in the carburetor and then go from there. So we pulled the front bowl off just to make sure that things weren't too crusty inside, and everything looked pretty good. So I cleaned out the bowl. What little bit was in there, they were pretty clean, and the accelerator pump was dry rotted, and as soon as Scott pressed on it, it just immediately just crumbled. So we had one out of another carburetor, but his was a 50 cc, so we had to change the whole mechanism back to a 30 cc, which was fine. And the gasket was in somewhat usable condition, and when we put it all back together, it leaked but it held enough fuel for us to try and get it running. And yeah, so I'll buzz through some stuff here with us messing around with the fuel lines and stuff like that, and then I'll pick back up in a minute. Alright, so we got to the point where we started putting the spark plugs back in. I think we got all the spark plugs back in, got them tightened up, and then we were putting the spark plug wires back on. That got kind of mixed up a little bit, and I think there was some confusion about the spark plug wire order. We ended up looking at it online, so we got that all squared away, as you can see us moving the wires around and such. And then yeah, after we spun it over, then we started testing the electronics, and we had some electrical issues, and turned out to be one of the connections underneath the dashboard. We had some wires under the dash that were touching the frame from a previous repair, and yeah, we took the block off the firewall. It was somewhat corroded, so we cleaned that up, put some dielectric grease on it, put it back together, and the connection under the dash, made sure we had power to the electronic ignition box, and then we spun it over. We were able to get spark, and then after that, on the last video there, we ended up turning it over. The starter was actually, the starter was fine. It needs a new ignition switch. The ignition switch has gone bad in it, and it was making contact before